85 of the House of Commons Standing Committee on the Status of Women. Today's meeting is taking place in a hybrid format to the standing orders, and members are attending in person and in the room and remotely using the Zoom application. I would like to make a few comments for the benefits of the members. Please wait until I recognize you by name before speaking. And for those who are participating by video conference, please raise your hand function so that I can identify you before speaking as well. You have the option, of course, French and English. I think you all know that, so we're good there. And reminder, and I'm sure you've already checked into our witness, I'm sure you've already checked in and know about the French and English there as well. Just a reminder, you all have to be using your headsets and everything looks good there. And so for the benefit of Adrienne, all of the sound checks have been done, so in both French and English, so everything should be good. And just a reminder, if we're speaking French and English, just put on your earpiece to choose French or English if there's a language that's better for you. Today, we are going to be beginning our Women's Economic Empowerment Study. Pursuant to Standing Order 1082 and the motion adopted by the committee on Thursday, September 21st, 2023, we will begin our study on women's economic empowerment. So I am pleased to welcome for our first hour, Madame Caroline Désir, entrepreneur sociale, and she is online with us today. Yes, no, she's here in person. There you are right there. Golly gee, I'm looking at this. Mazarette Halayas. So you're going to have to help me with this because sometimes I could do better. How do you say your last name? Haliarosis.
Haliarosis, yeah.
You and I are going to go and practice that a little bit. I can't even get my own name out sometimes, so there we go. And then online, we have Claire Barnett, who is the Director of the Economic Development and for the City of Brampton. And so today, we're going to be providing you each 5 minutes for your opening comments. When you see me asking you to wrap it up, please make that into your last 15 seconds, okay? We just want to make time as tight as possible. What we'll do is we'll look at the time. We will try to extend the meeting a little bit longer, but we're going to be staying in between our 3:30 and 5:30 time slot. I know with subcommittee that we work so well together that we'll be able to get through that, so we may be shortening that time instead. So what I'll be doing then is now putting the time over. And so, Kathleen, I'm going to pass the clock over, or the mic over to you for the next 5 minutes for your presentation. You have the floor. Perfect.
Merci, Madame la Présidente, honorable député.
Thank you very much, Chair. In this final year of the United Nations International Decade for People of African Descent, what a wonderful opportunity I have to share my story with you. I am Caroline Désir, a social entrepreneur. If there is one thing to remember, it is that my story is not unique and has led to the creation of a scholarship fund at the University of Montreal in my name. In 1976, my parents arrived at Montreal Trudeau Airport, fleeing Haiti under the Duvalier dictatorship. They faced the challenge of building a future while holding diplomas that were not recognized. Armed with courage, they started from scratch and bet on the eldest child to break out the cycle of generational hardships. I quickly developed a strong sense of responsibility, working 3 jobs to pay for my education. So many constant sacrifices, busy schedules, and the pressure of juggling work, studies, and caregiving responsibilities while I just wanted to focus on my education. A few months before obtaining my degree in psychology, a professor taught future graduates a theory that claimed that black people were less intelligent than white people. This moment marked my journey and motivated the creation of the scholarship fund bearing my name. While education is a powerful weapon, such statements have a devastating impact on several generations. My entry into the workforce was marked by similar challenges. As a woman and the only person of color on the executive team of a large SME, I ended up burning out. How could I have been prepared to navigate these systemic challenges? I learned that I was pregnant, and that became my motivation. I became an entrepreneur out of necessity. The journey of one of my businesses, Déclic, lasted for 17 years and served 50,000 children with special needs. Despite the challenges of accessing financing, the lack of mentorship, and 3 pregnancies without maternity leave, Déclic received several recognition awards. During this period, I realized how I was once again part of the entrepreneurial exception, and the disparities in effort compared to my peers were striking and unjust. Faced with a lack of role models to guide me, my commitment to the cause was strengthened. I contributed to the creation of the Afro Entrepreneur Fund and saw how, beyond financing, these individuals needed specific support. My story is not unique. Beyond programs, we needed role models. Initiatives like the International Black Women's Summit, the largest gathering of its kind in Canada, deserves to be sustained because they allow 6,000 women to feel supported, empowered, and equipped. My story is not unique, and I aspire for it to shatter stereotypes while opening doors. If I had been the chair of the board of Entre Chefs PME, which brings together more than 2,000 members, predominantly men from the manufacturing sector, there's still work to be done. I'm proud to have facilitated the entry of other women and entrepreneurs of color into this business circle. Elitism in the ecosystem persists and further widens the gap with underrepresented groups such as women. And yes, I believe we must continue to implement measures to propel the diverse faces of our economy within the existing networks. In my work, I also contributed to the transformation of FEWO into EVOL and chaired its board. It's an organization dedicated to financing and supporting female entrepreneurs in pursuit of equity. You know, I understood the intersectionality and the additional challenges it causes, especially for people who are BIPOC with constant specific barriers that require particular attention. Despite these successes, I still face daily systemic challenges. Without access to a family legacy, I had no choice but to close the doors of my company, Déclic, at the end of the pandemic. Even when one has managed to overcome many obstacles, economic inequalities persist for women and particularly for BIPOC women. These inequalities are exacerbated exponentially because these groups are at the forefront of all societal battles. This bleeding must stop, and the worst part is that recession will only accentuate these gaps. Afro-descendant women more than ever need psychosocial support to bolster their resilience on the path to financial autonomy and economic contribution. Black communities are diverse, and empowerment means offering a versatile and well-equipped toolbox to build a resilient Canadian society that is more equitable and inclusive. Hence, the creation of the scholarship fund that bears my name. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, c'est très apprécié. Maintenant, nous donnons la parole 5 minutes à Madame Mazeret Alessus du Centre canadien pour l'autonomisation des femmes. Merci. Bon après-midi. Je m'appelle Mazeret Haile-Yesus, fondatrice et directrice générale du Centre canadien pour l'autonomisation des femmes. Nous sommes la seule organisation canadienne à but non lucratif qui se consacre à la lutte contre les abus économiques par le biais du changement de système, de la recherche et de la défense des droits. Je suis ici aujourd'hui pour aborder la question essentielle de l'autonomisation économique des femmes.
I'm going to do that as well. The interpretation is coming in. Are you getting it as well as French?
I'm just getting French.
Yes.
No,
so the English channel is coming in as French. So we will restart if you don't mind. If we can check with the translators.
My apologies.
That's okay. I was listening. I'm like, okay, we're good. If we could just start and we'll just make sure we're hearing English. If you could go ahead and start from the beginning.
Okay, thank you so much. Good afternoon. My name is Mazeret Haile-Yesus, the founder and the executive director of the Canadian Centre for Women Empowerment, CCFWE. We are the only Canadian non-for-profit organization that focus on addressing economic abuse and injustice through system change, research, and advocacy. I stand before you today to address the paramount issues of economic empowerment of women. Economic abuse impacts 95 to 99% of domestic violence survivors. Women survivors report losing resource of income due to domestic violence. Yet they have no any way pursuing business venture because of the strict background check, including credit score check. Women-owned business, particularly those run by single moms, represent a significant and growing sector of the global economy, driving innovation, creating jobs, and fostering economic growth. However, women entrepreneurs often confront systemic barriers that limit their progress and potential. It's our duty to address this disparity, empower women in business, and create more inclusive and prosperous society. Dear Honorable Committee members, women-owned business have long faced disparity in accessing financial resources. Access to microcredits, funds, and steady income is a common challenge confronted by survivors of domestic violence. Most women who have survived from gender-based violence, unemployment, are recipients of social welfare or disability support program. Racialized women often face a dual challenge obtaining capital of their business. They experience gender bias as well as racial disparity in accessing financing, and the discriminatory lending practice and limited access to venture capital can significantly hinder business growth. Dear honorable members, policymakers must immediately implement policies that promote equitable access to financial resources for women-owned business. This includes ensuring securing banking service, offering specialized loan for women of color and startup, providing affordable banking option, and establishing a clear guideline for detangling joint bank account following separation and divorce. This policy supports women-owned business by fostering secure financial practice, removing obstacles like limited access of financial institution and discrimination, and ensuring equitable service for asset ownership. These measures are essential for preventing predatory lending practice, enhancing economic self-resilience, and driving sales profits, ultimately contributing for the greater financial stability of women entrepreneurs. In addition to this foundational work, the Canadian Centre for Women Empowerment respectfully urge the Standing Committee to enact the following recommendation. Identify the regulatory barriers that disproportionately affect racialized women business and systemic and structural racism. Invest in building collective federal strategy with financial institutions to remove the existing regulatory barrier and to encourage survivors who are interested in entrepreneurship by offering a trauma-informed micro-enterprise entrepreneurship program. Micro-enterprise and entrepreneurship program provide survivors with practical opportunities such as development, skills, mentorship, and ensuring economic safety. Create economic incentive for financial institutions can actively support women-owned venture. This includes the provision of low-interest loan, grants, and venture capital specifically in market for women-owned business. And foster partnership between government agencies and financial institutions can significantly enhance accessibility. Fund and support research on women-owned business to better understand their challenge and opportunity. This data-driven approach will enable the development of evidence-based policies and initiatives. Work with provincial and territorial government to establish a transparency, reporting requirement of business, and government agencies to track their support for women-owned business. Foster international trade and export opportunities for women-owned business through trade agreement, education program, and access to global market. Dear honorable committee members, policymakers must champion these policies to drive in their implementation for the benefit of women entrepreneurs and the broad economy. These steps fosters dismantle systemic barriers and harness the vast potential of marginalized women entrepreneurs to drive economic growth and innovation. Empowering racialized women is not only a social justice issue. It's imperative for our nation's prosperity and competitiveness. Let's collectively ensure racialized women entrepreneurs to flourish. Together, we can take a bold action to uplift racialized women entrepreneurs, creating more equitable and prosperous society that celebrates the diversity and provides economic opportunity for next generation. I would like to thank you, the committee member, for their interest on this important topic, most importantly, to bring this conversation for public hearing. Thank you.
And now we're going to move online to Claire Barnett from the City of Brampton. Claire, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you very much for the opportunity to speak with you today. Je m'appelle Claire Barnett. Je suis directrice du développement économique.
I'm Claire Barnett, Director of Economic Development for the City of Brampton. Before coming to work for the city, I worked at the Ministry of Economic Development and at the Cabinet Office of the Government of Ontario. I've been working in the area of economic development for more than 20 years, including the last 15 years in management-level positions. And my comments today deal with the diversity of women.
Go ahead, Leah.
I'm so sorry. The translation is the same volume, the French and English.
Okay. I'm just going to ask, for the others online, Emanuela, I don't know if you're listening to French or English. Are you having the same issue? Oh.
I'm on the original, so I don't actually...
So it doesn't matter for you. Yeah. And Dominique would be you. So if we could just go back a couple seconds there, Claire. I just wanted to see where we're at. If you could speak a little bit of English, because we may have to go all the way back. Leah, one moment. Claire, if you could try this out.
Sure. You want me to start from the beginning?
Yeah, go ahead.
In English?
Yes,
Sure.
yes, please.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today.
We're good.
Okay. So I'll start from the beginning then. Thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. Je m'appelle Claire Barnett. et je suis
My name is Claire Barnett. I'm Director for Economic Development for the City of Brampton. Before working for the city, I worked at the Ministry of Economic Development and at the Cabinet Office of the Government of Ontario. I've been working in the area of economic development for more than 20 years, including the last 15 years at the management level. My remarks today deal with the diversity of women in Brampton and on examples that show that when women are mentors in their career, they can overcome obstacles and challenges that have an effect on their economic empowerment.
About the Pink Attitude Evolution. Pink Attitude Evolution was founded in 2015 in Brampton as the first non-for-profit organization of its kind in Canada, where women of South Asian origin are empowered to achieve their full potential in their chosen endeavors. Its work on the changing face of Canada's workforce included a national research study with the goal of creating an accompanying action plan on unlocking the potential of a growing South Asian women labor force. Their study, released in 2020, which the City of Brampton sponsored, found that South Asian women are twice as likely to say that they are treated unfairly in the workplace, and revealed that more than 57% of South Asian women are planning to leave their jobs for other opportunities. The study follows a 2020 Statistics Canada report, which discovered that South Asian women have almost twice the national unemployment rate. They are also more likely to be underemployed and underpaid compared to non-visible minority women. Important contrast within the study suggests that South Asian women born in Canada and those already established in this country face different obstacles and will need distinct supports to succeed. Established South Asian women, for example, can be role models of the future, but they first need mentorship to break through the glass ceiling. The second example I'd like to share with you is a success story from a woman mentored throughout her career. MDA is an international space mission partner and a robotics, satellite systems, and geointelligence pioneer based in Brampton. After 50 years, it is now building a new global headquarters and center of excellence in the city. Its leadership team is 7 women and 7 men. One of the women is Holly Johnson, Vice President of Robotics and Space Operations. She joined MDA as an engineering student in 2008. In 2010, she became a systems engineer, then a business development manager, director of operations, vice president of operations, and now vice president of robotics and space operations. Throughout her career, she was guided, supported, and mentored. And when I asked her what mentoring culture was like at MDA, she said that every one of her managers pulled her up into a stretch position because they saw her potential and ability. There is a culture at MDA to reward talent and ambition, which is very progressive. Another example is the MasterCard Emerging Leaders Cyber Initiative, which is delivered by Rogers Cybersecure Catalyst in Brampton. This program is for women and non-binary leaders seeking to advance to executive level positions in cybersecurity. ELCI is the first in the world. Career mentoring is a key component of the program, providing participants with personalized support and guidance and mentorship from senior cyber executives. Mon dernier exemple, c'est le Centre Gina.
My last example is the Jean Augustine Center for Young Women's Empowerment, whose mission is to empower women and girls. It has extracurricular programs, workshops, camps, events based on 4 pillars: financial education, studies and STEM, community engagement and empowerment. The center is based in South Etobicoke, Toronto, and this summer we organized a STEM pilot camp in Brampton. I think that mentoring is one of the key tools for ensuring career growth for women and for their economic empowerment, without which women would continue to deal with the glass ceiling or cement ceiling and the glass.
And the role of big employers to enable the scaling and best practices. In addition, how can mentors play a role outside of their organization to support women professionals and entrepreneurs in their community? This can build off of the Government of Canada's 50-30 challenge. The goal of the program is
I don't know if you saw me, but we are wrapping up. I needed you to wrap it up.
That was my first, sure.
Okay.
I can finish now if you like.
Yeah, if you just about 5 more seconds, just. Yeah, just.
That's okay. I was just going to tell you about the 30 challenge, but that's absolutely
We'll
fine.
get
Thank
into
you very
that probably
much.
during questions then, okay?
Yeah.
All
Sure, no
right,
problem.
fantastic. All right, so what I'm going to do then is I'll switch over to our round of questioning then. So we will start off with our first 6 minutes, and we'll start over with the CPC and Michelle. Michelle, you have the floor for 6 minutes.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Thank you to our witnesses. Thank you for the work that you do. I'm very interested, Ms. Desir. Is that how I say? Desir? How do I say your? Desire. Hi, Desire. I love it. I love what the work you do, but you had said that Declec had went out of business. Is that correct?
Yes, I had to close my business, yes.
That's really unfortunate. And the people that were accessing your business, so this is a business that you're serving children with special needs, so very important work that you're doing. So the people who were accessing your services, how were they paying for those services?
Well, there were two kinds of way to have the access. They could pay at the clinic directly with the insurance, or they had a special program in daycares that takes care of children with the disabilities. Fait qu'il y avait des subventions dans les milieux de garde pour.
There were subsidies for childcare, and they could then use our service as well.
Thank you. And I think what I'm trying to pick at here is what I see, with parents who are in these precarious situations. The cost of living crisis has really been a massive, massive role in this. And consequently, when your clients are impacted, the business owner is then ultimately impacted as well. Would you say the cost of living crisis and inflation has been a big factor for you?
En fait, chez nous, on avait des listes d'attente.
For us, the challenge was not the clients. It was just that during the pandemic, we were closed for 6 months. And so we lost all our clients. And there were also technological challenges. But so we had to make a choice. And so this was an issue of, as well, the cost of our building and our offices, and plus the investment in technology. It meant that we had to close. But it wasn't because there was a lack of clients. I mean, the children's needs were enormous, and they needed a great deal of help. And so there's a lot of market for our services, but those who have the means can get access to help better, but those that do not, it's difficult for them to obtain services because they could cost them $120 an hour, for example.
In translation, what I was trying to say, exactly, there's a massive need, 100%, but you're already dealing with people who are already squeezed out already, and it becomes harder and harder for them. Right. The more the cost of living increases, right? So it's the people who get hurt the most are the marginalized to begin with, right? So it's very challenging. So I commend you for the services that you're doing. It's unfortunate that your business had to close its doors because there's so many children, and we're seeing an increase in neurodivergence as well in children. So thank you. If I could move to Ms. Barnett. Ms. Barnett, how many female entrepreneurs do you represent or do you know within your region?
I don't think I could give you an exact number. The city of Brampton has about 70,000 businesses of all sizes, from entrepreneurs all the way up. The Brampton Entrepreneur services thousands every year.
Yeah, if you have access to that information, you can table it to the committee. I think those stats are really valuable in terms of the numbers, and even looking at comparative values, right? What was it in 5-10 years ago? Where is it today? If you have that information, I think it would be very valuable to see if we're seeing an increase in women-run businesses, or is it staying the same or decreasing? How many of those businesses, obviously, if you don't know that number, you might not know this next question, but how many do you find are represented in STEM, so science, technology, engineering, or mathematics?
The Brampton Entrepreneur Center services men and women, non-binary, so we don't differentiate between that, but there are members of our innovation district that have programs specific for women. I can send you the numbers from the Rogers Cybersecure Catalyst, for example, that has programs specifically for women.
Okay, that's
great.
great.
And I can send you that data as well.
That would be great. And I'm curious if you know how many businesses, obviously if you don't keep track of women, I know that's what this study is primarily designed to do, is to study women, but how many businesses have went out of business, you know, in the last 8 years?
In the last 8 years, we can look at that data. We have been looking at data since COVID. What happened to businesses since COVID and which sectors they were in. So we can look at that data as well for you.
Yeah, I think it's interesting if we can see business starts versus business going out. And one of the areas for this study is access to financing. And I know as an entrepreneur myself before and a single mom, it was virtually impossible to secure financing for businesses. Has that been an issue? I would ask Ms. Desire. Was that an issue for you to access financing for your business?
Well, en fait, j'ai
Actually, when I wanted to start my business, I was pregnant, and so I managed to go back to where I was able to get a credit, a loan for starting my business.
I'm sure we'll have more questions coming from that. So thank you so much. I'm going to now pass it over to Sonia Sidhu. Sonia, 6 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, all the witnesses, for being with us. And Claire, thank you very much. The work you are doing on the Brampton Entrepreneur Center, I know many times I visit there, and how you are supporting all women. It is amazing. Today, I really want to you to tell us like how still, if we see women-owned business are less smaller than male-owned businesses. 18% of business in Canada are owned by women, more than 20 employees. What can the federal government do more to support women-owned business so they can face less challenges?
Thank you for the question. I think we're seeing a lot of support since COVID, and I hate to be the one who always raises COVID, but that was a real turning point for entrepreneurs and for women because they were at home with their children. Some of them were not able to go full time back to work and have started. And I will get the data per the previous question. Women are starting to set up many more small businesses and entrepreneurs. We know that the region has changed requirements. So, for example, women home-based entrepreneurs can now sell their products and their food. Programs like that really matter. So it sounds on the ground and almost minutia from a policy perspective, but that's the stuff that really matters. Changing legislation, changing regulations, changing bylaws from a government perspective really helps a lot. There are some really bright stars. And one of my favorites, which you would know as well, is Tina Singh from Bold Helmets. She started her business throughout COVID, did a lot of research. She was a medical background, and she created something that has really struck a chord across the market around the world and is now exporting her helmets for Sikh children to be able to wear. And now she's exporting to the UK as well as to the US. Those are bright sparks. And she came through our Entrepreneurship Center, which you support very much. So thank you. I think the funding to those types of centers is what's critical. And the funding does come from Ontario, but if there's a way of the federal government being able to support, like through My Main Street, those programs were extremely helpful.
Thank you. You mentioned Pink Attitude Evolution, where they did the study, Changing Face of Canada's Workforce, where they figure out the racialized women, particularly South Asian, because you're from Brampton, and what kind of the challenges they are facing. And then I also want you to comment on, I know Cyber Catalyst has a woman entrepreneurship for cybersecurity leadership program. So how we can, federal government can support the women can more independent, or they have less fear to be successful in the businesses?
I think for women entrepreneurs, it is that first step. And that's what we see at the Entrepreneurship Center. That's what we see with the MasterCard program with the Rogers Cybersecure Catalyst as well. It's encouraging them to take the first step, and that comes from conversations that we have on the ground. And I really think that those studies like the one Pink Attitude Evolution did really gives data to the challenge that we know anecdotally. And I'd really encourage the committee, if there is time, to look at that study. It really identified some of the obstacles in terms of cultural challenges, the perception, their ability to grow their careers, and they really put that down to having role models, having mentorship, having people help them and lift them up, as they did with the example I gave you from MDA.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Do I have more time?
We have 1 more minutes.
Any other comment how federal government can support more women entering STEM or the skilled trades and support women succeeding in these fields? Any comment on that?
I think we've seen an increase in women. My own department has an advanced manufacturing team where we're doing a lot of work now on getting women into skilled trades. Every business visit that we go to, it's about hiring talent. Those companies, our bigger employers, are having challenges hiring people. If we can fill that gap with getting more women into trades and making it more of an acceptable skill, organizations like Sheridan College and the Magna Center for Skilled Trades, if you haven't already visited, I very much recommend it. It's at Sheridan College's Brampton campus, and that is putting women through trades and through trade. And then I have been told that they are hired even before they graduate, and that's how much of a need there is. So if there is a way of the federal government supporting initiatives like that, I think that's what helps women get into trades more.
30 seconds if you want to. We're past. Thank you very much, Sonia. We'll now move over to Adrienne. Adrienne, you have 6 minutes.
Merci, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you to our 3 witnesses for being with us today for this very interesting study. And you'll understand that I'm going to ask Ms. Desir because you had to close your business because of COVID, and what I understand is that there may have been a lack of flexibility in the programs, and as a social worker, a community worker, and I worked with people in poverty, and the fact that the problem of food security, and women are better at networking and developing businesses and improving their businesses, and all the issue of the work as with the family. And so I'd like to see, what would you like? More flexibility in programs to help you. I'm an entrepreneur who is very aware of managing the family, and I also had a business that provided services. I had 25% profit, millions of dollars in revenue, and the fact that we offered services, the programs we offered, a number of programs that we had for manufacturing and exporting, but I was not in any particular existing category. I was somebody who was very new, and in the businesses that already existed, there was nothing to help us except for the emergency programs. Yes. And the size of the businesses, with many women's businesses, and maybe I'll ask the other witnesses to answer as well. We often talk about precarity of the of positions of the business, and how can that have an influence on the development and empowerment of women entrepreneurs? If I look at my experience, with our clientele as well. Women are women. There were from businesses in the services or caregiving areas, and these women have an entrepreneurial culture. And during the pandemic, they were at home looking after their families, and so they had less time to work for their businesses. And we saw that that had an effect on the mental health of our women entrepreneurs. They had more problems, more absences from work, and so for women SMEs, I think there's a greater impact on women in this kind of situation, especially for BIPOC women. Ms. Bailem, you also dealt with or talked about the problem of women in business, and how could the government, federal government, help the situation for your clientele, and for women entrepreneurs?
Federal program called My Main Street, and I believe it was through FedDev. And what we saw were we had 6 business ambassadors across the city, and they would go and speak with businesses in their community, door to door, really getting to know their businesses and getting to know the entrepreneurs personally. What we found was either women entrepreneurs just didn't have time to make the application. They didn't really know if they would be accepted or not. But what we found is when our ambassadors really supported them, they were successful. They were successful in receiving the funding. And programs like that were run through our entrepreneurship center. I believe it was run across the country. A program like that really helped because it was very personal and very supportive. The previous speaker spoke about the mental health challenges. Having someone come and visit you and talk to you about your business and provide business advice personally and directly like that had an incredible impact.
Tout à fait. La question du mentorat.
Yes, the issue of mentoring and support, and those are things that I thought might be effective. I know I've got a bit of time, but could you give us some information about your Challenge 53 that you didn't have time to talk about?
Thank you for the question. It's the federal government's program that's the 50-30 challenge. And the concept behind it is really to ensure that Canadian organizations, not-for-profit as well as profit, increase representation and inclusion of diverse groups within the workplace, while highlighting the fact that the concept is that Canada benefits when it gives all Canadians a seat at the table. A mentorship program run through something that already exists, an existing concept, would certainly be easier to pilot. And I truly believe that corporate Canada can play a significant role by providing best practices, like the example from MDA that I gave you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Now we're going to turn on over to Leah Gazan, who's online. So, Leah, you have the floor for 6 minutes.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. And thank you to all the panelists for coming today. My first question is for Madame Halius. I just wanted to start out by commending you for the tremendous work that you've done on the impact that economic abuse has on limiting women's ability to escape violence. I know you've been a real leader, and you spoke today about systemic and structural barriers, racism, that make it more difficult, particularly for BIPOC women, racialized entrepreneurs to participate in the many programs. Can you give an example and explain why?
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, as you know, especially when women have a layered identity, especially like, if you are a woman of color, and plus if you are impacted also on gender-based violence, unfortunately, our system is not designed for those specific target group. For example, one of the barriers I mentioned in my policy recommendation is access to finance. As a single mom, as a former entrepreneur, I am able also to close my business because of the structural barrier I personally witnessed in the financial institution. Accessing loan is one of the huge issues for like women like me. Unfortunately, the system, especially the financial resource, the financial institution system, is not really tailored to us, and then you feel like you're disconnected from that sector. And then the other thing is,
just to build on that, how is it not tailored to BIPOC women, for BIPOC women?
Yeah, so like the financial institutions, that's what I would like to take to refer again, especially like when you want to access a loan. So that's also one of the challenge. I was rejected many times in 3 banks simply to access small loan. Even I don't know the reason. So I feel like as a Black woman, as a racialized, maybe the system is not designed for me. That's my personal. And also I have seen many of like, women who have also lived experience on gender-based violence. They are not able to continue their business. So loan is a huge issue. Probably financial institution, the federal government, if they could take an action and then engaging them in such conversations so that they can understand, our situation. I think that's what I would like to comment. Because there isn't any clear guideline for us, especially for the emerging entrepreneurs. But it's very confusing even which bank have even a service for me personally. It's very hard for us. Yeah, that's the reason.
Okay. And, I know that you spoke about financial barriers. One of the things that I proposed in this parliament is for a guaranteed livable basic income. I'll give you an example. One of my neighbors always wanted to open a business, and while she was collecting the CERB, because she couldn't work during that time, she actually got an education and now is an entrepreneur. I'm trying to put forward a bill C-223, to put in place a guaranteed livable basic income, in addition to things like affordable housing with rent geared to income, to support the economic empowerment of women, particularly women who've been marginalized by systems such as those living with disabilities, immigrant or migrant women, racialized women, Black or Indigenous women. Do you think a guaranteed livable basic income for women that are wanting to pursue, for example, entrepreneurship would be an assistance?
Yeah, that's very helpful. Like, as you know, especially in the context of like gender-based violence, poverty is a huge barrier for a woman, either to go back to the workforce, either to also to start a business. So as you know, many women, we spend 50% of our income on housing. As you know, housing is also a huge issue. So I think having that program in place definitely encourage women to secure more income, go back to the workforce, and to build also their business.
Okay, thank you so much. I have a question now for Madame Halarosis. Is that right? Halarous? Is that right? Sorry.
Yeah, Haile Jesus, sorry.
Halarosis? Okay, perfect. Yes, just wanted to ask you, you spoke about inequalities for BIPOC women. Just wondering if you can expand on that point. What changes do you think you could put in place to make things more equitable? I know that you spoke briefly about it, but what changes could we put in place to make it more equitable? Like you were talking about loans, you were talking about government programs. What do you think needs to be put in place to make it more equitable?
Okay, number one, we need to invest on aggregated data and research. Research is very important to shape our public policy because even when you talk about even the issue of gender-based violence, it's a very complex. We don't know even how many women would love to start a business. So I think data is investment on data. I think that's crucial. So the second thing is we need to invest on mentorship and networking. Especially single moms, they stay at home. They are disconnected because of abuse and trauma. So we need to create a platform for them to connect and then, to learn and to upgrade also their skills. And then employment is also another investment because when women go out for employment, definitely, as you know, they have a lot of wisdoms and then also passion for change. So we need to create on that. And then the last thing is, of course, we need to also create import and export opportunities for women of color because we have a lot of barriers. We want to invest and want to be part of that platform. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, we're not going to go into our second round. It's just that we do have some issues with timing on this. So what we're going to do is we'll go 3-3-2-2. Okay, so for our last round, 3-3-2-2. So I'm going to pass it over to Anna for the first 3 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thanks a lot to the witnesses. So I have a question for Madame. You're going to have to help me. Sorry?
Haile Jesus.
Haile Yusuf?
Yeah, Haile and Jesus. You can
Haile
split, no problem.
Yusuf.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Haile Yusuf. Okay. Thank you for that. So I come from the finance world, and I know for women entrepreneurs that there's a special loan that is applicable to anyone, female or male, to apply for, where it's based on government guarantee. And you mentioned earlier that you applied and were declined, but weren't given a reason. So I find, coming from the banking world, one of the rules was that if a loan was not approved, we must provide concrete evidence as to why and explain it. If not, the client had the opportunity to escalate it to the ombudsman. Did they not provide you with a reason?
So there isn't any justification. I was very surprised. That's my lived experience. I don't have any answer for that, yeah. So I didn't receive anything else. But they told me that I'm not qualified, so I have to look for another, business opportunities.
And did you look into maybe going to an ombudsman? Because you have that right. We all have that right. That doesn't sit well with me. If somebody had said that to me, I'd want to know why. Was it the credit issue? Was it the affordability issue? Was it the TDS or GDS issue? What was the issue, or what was the reasoning? Anyway, because they do have it where the government will back the banks, and it used to be up to 25%. I know that ratio has changed recently, so I find that quite appalling, actually. So I'm sorry that they didn't provide you with better information. And I'm not sure what banks you went to, but I would definitely not have taken that response sitting down. My next question is to Desire? Mrs. Desire? Can I call you Mrs. Desire? Yeah, because I love your hair. Just love your hair. So I volunteered for an organization called Creating Alternatives. It was an organization that benefited young adults with cognitive challenges. And the program was set up so that these individuals, once they reach a certain age, the government has no plans for them. So 2 constituents in my riding decided, they had a daughter with severe disabilities, and they decided to start this program and help them. Some of them have even gone into, finding little part-time jobs. Some of them at least.
And I have 15 seconds.
Oh, you're kidding.
No, go.
Where did it go? Anyway, I guess what I was asking is we would do fundraisers, because you're allowed to do it, as well as they received a disability, and that would go towards the payment. Was that not the same? I'm not sure what province you're from. Does that not apply in your province?
Quebec, we cannot do
Well,
because I was a private enterprise.
This was private too.
On ne peut pas faire on peut pas récolter des dons.
we cannot go out and collect funds, and
I'm now going to pass it over to Anita. Anita, 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, and I want to thank all of the witnesses. I'd like to direct my question to Ms. Haile Jesus. So I note that the CCFWE has done literally cutting-edge work and research on financial abuse, economic abuse, and I know that in previous testimony before this committee, you mentioned that it's not just in conjunction with other forms of intimate partner violence, but it can also be a standalone form of abuse. And so you have a number of women who, the spouse may have controlled all of the money, may have, they don't have credit. They are leaving a bad situation where, it's you talked about untangling within the banking system when there is a divorce. Can you talk a little bit more, because banking is a federal regulated area. What can we do in terms of ensuring that that systemic barrier that you talked about, both in the regulatory barriers, the capital, accessing capital, the prejudice that exists, and how to handle these kinds of very difficult situations with bank accounts when people separate? what would be some of the key things that you think that we should be proposing in this committee?
Yeah, so thank you so much. So one of the most important things I would like to propose is there should be a rule and a regulation on coerced dates. As you know, when women leave abusive relationship, one of the huge problem is women, they have a lot of date on behalf of their name. So that date, it really affected her either to go back to school or to start even business. So I don't know if you know about like Bill 41, the Ontario Parliament also right now, like, they are, conducting informations with us. So hopefully that bill also one of the good opportunity at the provincial level, but want to expand across Canada. So it basically gives them for a woman relief, even though you have a lot of date on behalf of you because of your spouse. I think that's another thing we need to invest. So the second systemic things is we need to find a way women she can able to secure loans and grant without credit check. In a sense, credit is very important, but the current credit check, it didn't allow women to go back to either workforce, even also to start a business, because that's a huge barrier. And then the other things, of course, access to banking. As you know, if you want to have a bank, if you want to have a bank, you should have 2 ID. Of course, some banks right now, they are working on that. But previously, if you are a homeless, even to have a bank account, you should have 2 ID. So many women, they can't afford that. So access to banking should be a women economic right. So those are the things. And then the last thing is as well, if we could able to engage financial institution leaders in this conversation. I'm not sure how it works. That would be very important. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. We'll now move over for 2 minutes over to Adrienne. Adrienne, 2 minutes.
Merci beaucoup, Madame la Présidente.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much to our witnesses. And my last minutes will be for Ms. Haliesus. I'd like to, first of all, of course, the issue of economic empowerment of women is also related to some possible situations of violence, domestic violence, and the difficulty of women to find adequate resources and income to get themselves out of difficult situations. And the emergency benefit that was provided to businesses during the pandemic. Right now, we're talking about the 10%, 30% of bankruptcy and failure, and the Federation of Independent Businesses and others are waving a red flag and are asking for more time, more leeway to repay these loans. How could this lack of flexibility affect even more women?
Who are on business, definitely pandemic affects them, and also we have seen a very good support from the government. But for those women who want to start a business, that's a problem. The presence of rigorous credit check and then the spousal, coerced date, that really affects them. So I know there's a lot of program out there, but the program is not flexible according to their situation. As you know, housing is also an issue when we talk about economic empowerment. So without having affordable and accessible housing, it's very hard for a woman entrepreneur to start her own business even from her kitchen, right? So I think those are the things also we need to consider if I answer your question.
Thank you so much. We're now going to go online to Leah for the last 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to continue on with Madame Haliesus. Loved what you said about access to banking should be a woman's economic right. I totally agree. And you just spoke about the importance of safe housing, whether it's transitional shelters or more durable solutions like affordable housing, rent geared to income housing, to empower women to leave situations of economic abuse or even to start their own business. How are those kind of basic fundamental human rights, livable income, housing, how by supporting those basic things does it support women's entrepreneurship?
Yeah, when women face gender-based violence, stability is a huge issue. When a woman is stable, she can generate an income, she can go back to school, she can contribute to the economy. But when a woman is homeless, literally, it really affects not only her, it's all about the entire generation in the society. I think there is a huge intersection, and I believe also the current initiative working on housings, and of course the livable income is very important and crucial because when we talk about economic empowerment, we should also recognize the economic justice aspect because it's a fundamental right for a woman to secure safe housing, to get like an income, to sustain also her basics like need, and also to protect herself. So I believe women economic safety and security is very critical for women economic empowerment.
So would you say you can't have economic empowerment void of things like guaranteed livable basic income and affordable housing, rent guarantee economic justice? Would you say you need economic justice if you want to see even women's entrepreneurship flourish?
Yes, either for women entrepreneurship, also to go back to the workforce. Housing is a fundamental thing to invest. That's a critical because we cannot ask women to start a business, especially survivors. And then, of course, the universal livable income is a very critical for a woman if we are really want to make an impact and also engage survivors in this kind of conversation.
Thank you
so much.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. Well, thank you so much. This has been our round.
Order, Madam Chair.
Yes, Michelle?
I don't know if I'm allowed to do this, so I'll just put it forward. I've just been getting some motions or some messages from people while we're doing this committee, and they watched question period. They watched the vote on carbon tax. They're female business owners. They're asking that I put forward a verbal motion. We can put it in writing.
Let me just check. Yeah. Let me just check with, okay, I'll let you know. I'll make the ruling. Thank you. I'll make the ruling. I don't need everybody's support on this. I will look into this because I know under a point of order you cannot do a motion. It's only when it's either in committee business or you have the floor. So it's one or the other. So I just have to confer with this beautiful lady beside me and just ensure.
Thank you.
Going to provide a ruling on this first. So usually if it's a point of order, you either have to have the point of order or you have to have the floor, which you had neither, either through the point of order. So you could do a verbal motion, but that's non-debatable at that time. So it'd just be putting on the record, non-debatable. I'm going to pass the floor over to Anita. Go ahead, Anita.
No, I just wanted to know if we could release the witnesses.
That's what I was going to. Absolutely. And so on behalf, I will come back to this. On behalf of the committee, I would greatly like to thank both Claire, Caldine, and Meseret for coming and providing this information. We greatly appreciate it. What I'm going to do is I will continue, and I will have to excuse you. We've got two other kind of meetings happening here right now because we will have subcommittee meeting and different things that we have to do as that. So thank you so much for doing this. I'm going to suspend for about 30 seconds just so that you can get your things. So suspend very, very quickly, and then we'll go back. It can be read into the motion.
She could read it. Normally we don't read a motion, but she wants to provide a notice and you
Okay, so there's two different things. No, one moment. Please stop doing that, okay? Please stop telling me what the answer is before I even give it. So there are two. You need to have your
Les interprètes n'entendent pas.
interpretation is not on, so yeah, so mic's not on.
How about now? Translation. The committee immediately undertake a 5-meeting review on the disproportionate impact the carbon tax has on low-income individuals.
Fantastic. So this is not debatable at the time. That's just on motion. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go in camera. We will switch. I'm going to remind everybody online we are going in camera, so make sure you change into your new one. And I'm going to invite the gentleman to come forward and teach us about the legislation. And the lady. So we're going to suspend this portion of the meeting and go in camera. you.